You know that specific smell of a VIP lounge at 2 a.m.? It's a cocktail of desperation, spilled Grey Goose, and perfume that costs $400 an ounce, but still smells like a funeral home cover-up. That's my office. Or at least it was. I was standing behind the velvet rope of Club Sanctum, wearing a black uniform that fit a little too well, designed to make me look like furniture with a pulse. Bass from the main floor was vibrating through the soles of my shoes. Cheap, non-slip rubber soles. Not the Lewins I used to wear when I actually owned a place like this. That's the thing about Nightclub. It remembers your face, but it forgets your name the second your credit limit drops. Then she walked in. Claudia Haynes. She didn't just walk. She glided like she was on a conveyor belt made of other people's money. It was wearing a white mink coat that looked like it had been skinned alive 5 minutes ago, and her eyes were scanning the room for someone to victimize. That someone invariably was me. "Check my coat, sweetie." The coat hit me in the chest before I could even raise my hands. It was heavy, reeking of cold air, and that distinct metallic scent of new money that hasn't learned manners yet. I caught it because instinct is a hard thing to kill. My fingers dug into the fur hard enough to bruise the hide. "You dropped a hanger last time," Claudia sneered, not even looking at me. She was busy admiring her reflection in the darkened window of the DJ booth. "If you ruin the lining, I'll have it deducted from your whatever it is you earn. Tips, peanuts." I didn't say anything. I just tagged the coat. Ticket number 6EX. If she noticed the irony, was too busy checking her teeth for kale or cocaine. "Listen, before I go any further into how I dismantled this woman's life brick by gilded brick, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and give this a like. It keeps the algorithm fed, and frankly, after what I'm about to tell you, you're going to want to be notified when the legal updates drop. It's the only tip I'm asking for today." Back to the fur. I watched Claudia sashay into the VIP section, bypassing the security guard, who looked like a shaved gorilla in a suit. He nodded at her. Everyone nodded at her. She was the wife of Elliot Haynes, the tech CEO whose company Sphere had just acquired half the downtown district. In this ecosystem, Claudia was an apex predator. I was krill, but krill have a way of clogging the engines if there are enough of them, or if one of them is smart enough to know how the engine works. 2 years ago, I wasn't holding coats. Was the one throwing them. I owned the Velvet Room 3 blocks down. It was sharper, darker, cooler. We didn't let people like Claudia in because they ruined the vibe. They treated the staff like NPCs in their personal video game. I had a strict no policy, and Claudia Haynes was the patron saint of, I remember the first time I denied her entry at the Velvet Room. She looked at me like I had spoken in tongues. "Do you know who my husband is?" she had hissed, her face turning a blotchy shade of indignity. "I don't care if your husband is Jesus Christ in a Yeezy collab," I had told her. "You're not on the list." That was my mistake. Not the denial that was a pleasure, but underestimating how much free time a bored trophy wife with a vindictive streak has. Now I stood in the shadows of Club Sanctum, watching her hold court, was sitting on a tufted leather banquet that I knew for a fact hadn't been deep cleaned since 2019. She was snapping her fingers at a waitress, a girl named Sarah, who was putting herself through law school and didn't deserve to be treated like a servant in a Victorian melodrama. "More ice," Claudia barked, "and tell the bartender, this vodka tastes like tap water." "I want the bottle opened in front of me." I adjusted my earpiece. "Sarah," I murmured into the mic, my voice flat. "Just bring her the bucket. Don't engage. She's looking for a fight to spice up her Tuesday." Sarah looked over at me, her eyes wide and grateful. I gave her a microscopic nod. That's what I was now, the shadow manager, the ghost in the machine. The management at Club Sanctum kept me around because I knew where the bodies were buried, literally in terms of plumbing disasters, and metaphorically regarding the liquor license loopholes. They thought I was broken. They thought I was just happy to have a paycheck after my world imploded. They didn't know I was taking notes. Claudia laughed, a sound like glass shattering in a dishwasher. She was leaning into a guy who definitely wasn't Elliot. He was young, probably a personal trainer or a brand ambassador for tequila company, with hair so gelled it could withstand a hurricane. She ran a manicured hand down his arm right in the middle of the club under the lights. "God, service here has gone downhill," she announced loudly, making sure her voice carried to my station. "It's just so pedestrian." Ever since they started hiring the refugees from that failed club down the street, she meant me. She knew I could hear her. It was part of the ritual. She needed to remind me every single week that she had won and I had lost. I looked down at the fur coat in my hands. It was soft, expensive, and completely vulnerable. For a second, imagine taking a pair of shears to the lining. Just a small snip. A loose thread that would unravel the whole structure over time. But that was petty. That was amateur hour. I wasn't interested in ruining a coat. I was interested in ruining the person wearing it. I hung the coat up with exaggerated care, smoothing the bristles. "Enjoy it while it lasts, sweetie," I whispered to the empty cloakroom. The bass dropped again, shaking the floorboards. I checked my watch. It was 2:15 a.m. In exactly 4 hours, the Tokyo markets would open, and a very specific shell company I'd registered in the Cayman Islands was going to trigger a purchase order that would go unnoticed by everyone except the people looking for it. Claudia thought this was just another night of her reign. She didn't realize she was dancing on a trapdoor, and I was just waiting to oil the hinges. The music swelled, drowning out her laughter. I could still see her mouth moving, shaping insults, shaping her own demise. I adjusted my name tag, Vanessa Staff, and smiled. It was the kind of smile a shark gives before it rolls its eyes back. The game was on. If you think the fur coat was the peak of it, you've clearly never worked service for the 1%. The coat was just the opening ceremony. The main event was the humiliation loop, a routine Claudia had perfected with the efficiency of a Japanese factory line usually started with the drinks. Claudia didn't drink alcohol to get drunk. She drank to critique. She ordered a Grey Goose, soda, 3 limes, splash of cray in a tall glass, no straw, plenty of ice, but not too much ice. If the bartender, a sweet kid named Jason, put in 4 limes, crisis. If the splash of cranberry was more of a pour, tragedy. "Is it hard?" she would ask, leaning over the bar, her cleavage adjusting itself like a separate entity. "Is it hard to follow basic instructions? Or is this why you're on this side of the bar, and I'm on this side?" Jason would stammer, apologize, and remake the drink. Then she'd leave a tip. A single dollar bill folded into an origami swan. It wasn't a reward. It was a prop for her cruelty. "For your art classes," she'd say. Then there was Elliot, her husband, the CEO of Sphere. If Claudia was the knife, Elliot was the numbness that followed the cut. He didn't yell, didn't make scenes. He simply didn't perceive you as a human being. He looked through me like I was a smudge on a window pane. That Tuesday, Elliot came in about an hour after Claudia. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my entire liquidation settlement. He bypassed the line, bypassed security, and walked straight to the VIP section. As he passed the coat check, he handed me his umbrella. It was wet. He didn't hand it to me. Released it in the airspace roughly adjacent to my body, assuming I would manifest the physics required to catch it. I caught it. "Dry it," he said. Not a request. A command code input into a machine. "Right away, Mr. Haynes," I said, my voice devoid of inflection. He paused just for a fraction of a second. "Do I know you?" My heart did a slow, cold thud against my ribs. "I don't think so, sir. I'm just staff." "Right," he said, dismissing the thought before it could fully form. "You have the same eyes as a woman who used to run a dump downtown." Never mind. She's probably in rehab. He walked away. I stood there holding his wet umbrella, dripping water onto my shoes. A dump. My club had been Architectural Digest material. My club had been a sanctuary. I took the umbrella to the back room. I didn't dry it. I opened it and left it in the utility sink. Then I pulled out my phone. They were upstairs playing Masters of the Universe. I was downstairs playing 4D chess. I wasn't just scrolling Instagram. I was logged into a private server accessing the county clerk's real estate filings. You see, Club Sanctum wasn't owned by a person. It was owned by a holding company called Nightlife Ventures, which was owned by a larger conglomerate, which was leveraged to the hilt by a private equity firm that was currently panicking about its quarterly returns. I knew this because I had spent the last 2 years doing nothing but reading financial disclosures. While Claudia was reading gossip blogs, I was reading balance sheets. I saw the cracks before anyone else. Nightlife Ventures was hemorrhaging money. They had overexpanded into Vegas right before the market dipped. Were looking to liquidate assets to stop the bleeding. Club Sanctum was their crown jewel, but it was a jewel in a heavy, sinking crown. I swiped through the PDF on my screen. There it was, a notice of intent to sell commercial assets. It hadn't been publicized yet. It was buried in a bundle of documents meant for shareholders. I switched apps to a secure messaging platform. I typed 3 words to a contact named Ghost Investor. Green light, proceed. Upstairs, heard Claudia's voice rise above the music again. I walked out of the back room to check the commotion. She was standing near the DJ booth, pointing at my feet. I had come out from behind the counter to grab a bus tub. "Look," she shrieked, grabbing Elliot's arm. "I told you. Look at her shoes. Are those orthopedic?" "Oh my God, Elliot. It's like a nursing home caught fire and they wandered in here." The group around her laughed. It was a sycophantic, ugly sound. I looked down at my black, sensible, non-slip work shoes. They were ugly. They were practical. They kept me standing for 10-hour shifts while I plotted their destruction. "Comfort is key when you work for a living, Mrs. Paynes," I said. I didn't shout. I just projected using that bar owner voice that cuts through bass. The laughter faltered for a second. Claudia's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" She stepped closer, invading my personal space. "Did the furniture just speak?" I said. I looked her dead in the eye that these shoes have good traction, which is important. You never know when the floor is going to get slippery. "Is that a threat?" she scoffed. "It's a safety tip," I said, picking up the bus tub filled with their empty, wasted champagne glasses. Floors change, management changes. Everything is slippery eventually. "Fire her," Claudia said to the general manager, who had just rushed over sweating. "Gary, fire this grim reaper right now." Gary, man with the spine of a chocolate, looked at me nervously. He knew I ran the inventory better than he did. He knew I covered his ass when the till was short. "Claudia, please." Gary wheezed. "Vanessa is reliable. It's a busy night." "I don't care," she hissed. "She brings down the property value just by existing." "I'll go check the stock in the basement," I said to Gary, diffusing the situation before he had to make a choice. I didn't wait for permission, turned my back on her, the ultimate sin, and walked away. As I descended the stairs into the darkness of the stockroom, I could hear her screaming about disrespect. I pulled my phone out again. Ghost Investor had replied, "Funding secured. Initial offer drafted. Do we want the brand name?" I stopped on the landing. The concrete walls were cold. I typed back, "No, just the building, the land, and the liquor license. Burn the brand." I looked up at the ceiling, listening to the thumping of the party above. They were dancing on my ceiling. Soon I would be the one pulling the floor out. The humiliation wasn't a deterrent anymore. It was fuel. High-octane premium unlead hate. And I had a full tank. You need to understand something. I didn't lose my club because of bad business. I didn't lose it because of the economy or COVID or bad vodka. I lost it because I bruised a narcissist's ego. She decided to burn my life down as a hobby. 2 years ago, the Velvet Room was the heartbeat of the city. I had built it from a rotted-out warehouse into a sanctuary of obsidian glass and crushed velvet. It was my child. I had mortgaged my house, my car, and my sanity to build it. After the night, I denied Claudia entry. The whispers started. It wasn't anything loud. That's not how women like Claudia fight. They don't throw punches, they poison the well. Started with a blind item in a local luxury lifestyle blog, one that Claudia happened to be a major advertiser for, which downtown hotspot is actually a front for interstate laundering. Hint, it rhymes with helmet gloom. Subtle, no. Effective, devastatingly. Then came the concerns whispered at charity galas. Elliot Haynes suddenly pulled his company's corporate account. That was $50,000 a year in guaranteed revenue gone overnight. I called his assistant to ask why. I was told Mr. Haynes prefers venues that align with his family's values. Values. The man made his fortune data mining teenagers. But sure, let's talk about values. The death blow came a month later. I was in negotiations for a massive expansion loan. My investors were skittish, but on board. Then the health inspector showed up. Not for a routine check, a targeted raid based on an anonymous tip about rat infestations and sewage leaks. There were no rats. There were no leaks. My kitchen was cleaner than an operating room. But the inspector, a sweaty guy who wouldn't look me in the eye, shut us down for 72 hours pending investigation. 72 hours is an eternity in nightlife. The closed by health department sticker on the door is a scarlet letter you never scrub off. Vesters pulled out the next morning. One of them, a guy I'd known for 10 years, told me off the record. Vanessa, we love you, but the word is out. You're radioactive. The Haynes family is telling everyone you're under federal investigation. We can't be near that. I stood in the middle of my empty, beautiful club, watching the dust mows dance in the emergency lighting. I had $200 in my business account and a mountain of debt. I lost the lease. I lost the house. I remember seeing Claudia a week after the foreclosure. I was leaving the bank looking like hell. She was walking out of a boutique next door. She saw me. She stopped. She didn't say anything nasty. She just smiled. A small, tight, satisfied smile. She gave a little wave like she was shooing a fly and got into her Porsche. That wave broke something in me. It snapped the part of my brain that believed in karma or justice or taking the high road. High road is for people who have a car. I was walking, so I decided to take the low road, the sewer road, the road that runs right underneath their perfectly manicured lawns. That's when I went dark. I dyed my hair from its signature blonde to a nondescript brown. I stopped wearing makeup. I bought clothes at Walmart. I applied for a job at Club Sanctum, the very place Claudia and Elliot had adopted as their new playground. The interview was pathetic. Gary, manager, looked at my resume, which I had heavily redacted, leaving out the ownership part and just listing bar manager, and hired me on the spot because I was willing to work holidays. You look familiar, he had said, squinting. I just have one of those faces, I lied. I used to work at an Applebee's in the state. Right? He said, losing interest. Don't steal the towels. For 2 years, I have been invisible. I have fetched coats. I have mopped up vomit. Have listened to Claudia tell her friends how she single-handedly cleaned up the city's nightlife by getting rid of that trashy place down the street. She confessed her crime to me a dozen times, thinking I was just a faceless servant. We had to call in so many favors to get that inspector out there. She giggled once, 3 Martinez deep, talking to a friend in the bathroom while I restocked the paper towels. But God, it was worth it. Did you see her face? She looked like she was going to cry. Poor thing. Some people just aren't built for business. I was in the stall next to them holding a roll of toilet paper so tight the cardboard core collapsed. Not built for business. That phrase echoed in my head every night as I ate ramen in my studio apartment. She was right. I wasn't built for her kind of business. Her business was influence, gossip, and daddy's money. My business was operations, margins, logistics, vengeance. I started saving every tip. I reconnected with two of my old investors, the ones who had been burned when the Velvet Room went under. The ones who hated Elliot Haynes because he had screwed them on a separate tech deal. They were angry rich men. I pitched them a plan. We don't buy a club, I told them, sitting in a dark diner at 400 a.m. We buy the dirt it sits on. We buy the debt. We buy the distribution rights for the alcohol. We surround them. Then one investor asked, raising an eyebrow. And then, I said, I evict them from their own lives. The flashback ends now. The memory of that bathroom stall giggle is what fuels me. It's what keeps my hand steady as I initiate the next phase. Because here's the thing about people like Claudia. They think power is static. They think once they have it, they keep it. They don't understand that power is fluid. It flows to whoever is willing to dig the deepest trench. I had been digging for 2 years. A shell company is a beautiful thing. It's a ghost. It has no face, no soul, and most importantly, no name attached to it that anyone would recognize. Mine was called VMBB Holdings. To the casual observer, it looked like a boring real estate investment trust based out of Delaware. To me, VMBB stood for Vengeance is my business. Okay, that's cheesy, but when you're eating gas station sushi for dinner, allowed a little internal melodrama. While Claudia was complaining about the thread count of the napkins in the VIP lounge, I was finalizing the acquisition of Sanctum's biggest weakness, their liquor license distributor. See, in this state, liquor laws are archaic. Distributors have monopolies over certain territories. If you control the distributor, you control what flows into the glass. And if nothing flows, the party dies. I met my silent partners, let's call them Mr. X and Mr. Y, in the back of a 24-hour laundromat. It was the only place loud enough to mask a conversation, and weird enough that no one from Claudia's circle would ever be caught dead there. The paperwork for the distributor is signed, Mr. X said, sliding a thick envelope across a folding table. He was wearing a tracksuit, but the watch on his wrist cost more than the building we were sitting in. Now, effectively, own the exclusive rights to supply Sanctum with everything from vodka to vermouth. And the building? I asked, lighting a slim cigarette. I don't chain smoke Marlboro like a trucker, but I've developed a habit. It gives me something to do with my hands, so I don't strangle people. The bank accepted the offer on the mortgage note, Mr. Y added, grinning. He hated Elliot Haynes with the fire of 1,000 suns. Elliot had once publicly corrected Mr. White's pronunciation of Pinot Noir in front of a date. Petty, yes, but rich people wars are started over less. Technically, as of this morning, VMBB Holdings owns the debt. You can foreclose or you can renegotiate. I don't want to foreclose, I said, exhaling a thin stream of smoke. Not yet. I want to be the landlord. You want to charge them rent? No, I smiled, ash flickering. I want to change the locks. Back at the club, the atmosphere was getting rowdy. It was Friday night now. The bridge and tunnel crowd had mixed with the high society types, creating a chaotic energy that usually resulted in broken glass and bad decisions. I was back in uniform, busting a table near the dance floor. Claudia was there, of course. She was practically a fixture like the chandelier or the black mold in the basement. She was standing on a sofa, shoes on, which drove me insane, waving a bottle of Ace of Spades. Woo! She screamed. I love this song. The song was about struggle and grinding your way out of poverty. The irony was lost on her. I walked past her table. She looked down at me. Hey, you waitress. I stopped. Yes, ma'am. Take this away. She gestured to a barely touched fruit platter. The melon is soggy. It's disgusting. It tastes like poverty. I'll handle that, I said, taking the platter. And bring me another bottle, she commanded. Chop, chop. I walked to the bar. I punched in the order, but then I paused. I pulled out my phone. I logged into the distributor portal, the one I now owned access to. I found the account for Club Sanctum. I flagged it. Status credit hold. Delivery suspended. I confirmed the change. Within 24 hours, the club would run dry. No more ace of spades. No more Grey Goose would be serving whatever swill was left in the basement until they paid a reconnection fee that I set. And I was going to set it astronomically high. I brought the bottle to Claudia. I poured it into her glass with perfect technique, the bubbles settling just right. Finally, she huffed. Did you grow the grapes yourself? You're so slow. Just ensuring quality control, Mrs. Haynes, I said smoothly. Whatever, she dismissed me. Go find me a straw. A black one. Clear ones look cheap. I walked away to get the straw. As I passed the manager's office, I saw Gary, the GM, looking frantic. He was on the phone yelling, "What do you mean the delivery is? We have a private event tomorrow. Elliot Haynes is hosting a post-merger party. We need 50 cases of Dom." I slowed my pace, pretending to adjust a napkin holder. Credit hold. Gary shrieked. We paid the bill. What new owner? What are you talking about? I suppressed a laugh that would have sounded manic if I let it out. The dominoes were clicking. The seed of power wasn't just returning. It had sprouted, and it was a strangler fig. It was wrapping around the foundation of Club Sanctum, squeezing the life out of it. I grabbed a black straw from the supply bin. I walked back to Claudia. Here is your straw, ma'am, I said, placing it in her glass. About time, she muttered, taking a sip. I watched her drink. I watched her enjoy the expensive champagne that her husband's credit card paid for. I watched her oblivious arrogance. Drink up, Claudia, I thought. It's the last bottle of the good stuff you're going to see for a long time. I checked the time. My shift ended in 10 minutes. I had a meeting with a locksmith at 4:30 a.m. The walls were about to close in, and I was holding the remote control. Paranoia is a slow-acting poison, and I was administering it in microdoses. Saturday night, the night of Elliot's big post-merger bash. The club was packed. The air was thick with cologne and entitlement. But things were off. It started at the valet. I had accessed the third-party valet software system. It turns out the password was password 123 because security is a myth, and I had made a small adjustment to the VIP list. I was watching from the coat check window, which offered a sliver of a view to the front drive. I saw Elliot's Maserati pull up. He stepped out, tossing the keys to the valet kid, a teenager named Kyle. Kyle checked his tablet. He frowned. He tapped the screen. He checked the license plate. "I'm sorry, Mr. Haynes," I heard Kyle say through the open door. "The system is flagging this vehicle as restricted." "Restricted?" Elliot barked, his face flushing red under the valet lights. "I own this town. What the hell does restricted mean? Says repeated non-payment of parking violations and risk of towing." Kyle Reed looking terrified. "That's absurd," Elliot screamed. "Take the damn car." "I can't, sir. The system won't print a ticket. If I take it, the insurance won't cover it." Elliot Haynes, the billionaire tech mogul, had to park his own Maserati. He had to drive it 3 blocks away to a public garage and walk back in the slush. When he finally stormed into the lobby, his Italian loafers were stained with road salt. I was there holding a towel. "Rough night, sir?" I asked, my face a mask of concern. He snatched the towel from me without a word, wiping his shoes furiously. "Incompetence," he muttered. "Surrounded by incompetence." "It must be a glitch," I offered helpfully. "Computers are tricky," he glared at me. then stormed inside. Phase 2. The algorithm club used a digital tipping system that prioritized service to tables that tipped well. It was an internal metric on the waitstaff's iPads. I had tweaked the code for tonight. Table 1, the Hana's permanent table, was flagged as non-priority low tipper. This meant that every time Claudia ordered a drink, her request went to the bottom of the queue on the bartender's screen. I watched from the shadows as Claudia waved her empty glass. 10 minutes passed. 15. She stood up, waving her arms. "Hello, hello," she shrieked. "Is everyone blind?" Sarah, the waitress, walked right past her to serve a table of tourists who had ordered Bud Lights. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Haynes," Sarah said, looking genuinely confused at her iPad. "Your order isn't popping up. The system keeps pushing it back. Maybe the Wi-Fi is bad in this corner." Bad Wi-Fi. Claudia looked like she was going to have a stroke. "We are in the VIP section. Fix it." "I'm trying." Sarah lied. I had tipped Sarah $100 cash earlier and told her, "If the system glitches tonight, just roll with it. Don't override it." Finally, phase 3, the physical space. Elliot loved his specific corner booth. It was elevated, secluded, and offered a view of the entire club. It was his throne. But earlier that afternoon, I had placed a maintenance-required order for that specific booth. I had cited structural instability in the subfloor. Elliot marched up to his throne. He found it cordoned off with yellow caution tape. Gary, the manager, was wringing his hands. "Mr. Haynes, I'm so sorry that the floor is sagging. We can't let you sit there." Liability. "Where am I supposed to sit?" Elliot demanded, gesturing to the crowded club. "We have a nice table near the kitchen," Gary suggested weakly. Elliot's face went purple. Claudia looked like she had swallowed a lemon. "This is unacceptable," she screamed. "This is our night." I know, Gary stammered. "It's just the building is old. Things are falling apart." I walked by with a tray of clean glasses. I paused just long enough to catch Elliot's eye. "Can I get you folks some folding chairs?" I asked innocently. "Get away from me," Elliot hissed. They ended up standing, the king and queen of the city standing awkwardly near the bar, jostled by people who had paid a $20 cover charge. Claudia's feet hurt in her heels. Liat was sweating in his coat because he refused to check it. He didn't trust me anymore. Smart man. I moved through the club like a phantom. I knew every weak beam, every hidden mic, every wire. I was the ghost in their machine, and I was haunting them in real time. I went to the break room and checked my phone. A message from the lawyer. Deed recorded. Liquor license transfer complete. You are legally the owner of the property known as 440 West Street. Operating company is now your tenant, and they are in default. I smiled. It wasn't a shark smile this time. It was a wolf smile. I walked back out onto the floor. Claudia was arguing with the bartender about the lack of Dom Perignon. "Remember the delivery hold. We only have Moeta." The bartender shrugged. "I don't drink peasant champagne," Claudia yelled. I leaned against a pillar, watching. The walls were closing in. The ceiling was lowering. They were too busy shouting at the help to notice that the building didn't belong to them anymore. I had one more shift, one more night, and then the paperclip. There is a specific kind of silence that happens when a contract is signed. It's a silence that drowns out the noise of the world. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. I was sitting in my lawyer's office, staring at a stack of documents thick enough to stop a bullet. "This is it, my lawyer." Sharp woman named Jessica, who wore suits sharper than her name, said, "Once you sign this, Nightlife Ventures is notified that their lease is terminated due to violation of the good moral character clause in the master agreement, which ironically, they added to keep out strip clubs in the liquor license. Yours, VMBB Holdings, now holds the license. Club Sanctum is legally dry as of," she checked her watch, "noon today. Unless they negotiate with the new owner, which is you. I picked up the pen. It was a cheap big pen. I didn't need a Mont Blanc to sign their death warrant. I signed. Vanessa M. Bishop. Congratulations, Jessica said. You bought a zoo. No, I said, standing up. I bought a slaughterhouse. I went to work that night for my final shift. It felt surreal. I walked through the service entrance, swiped my card, which I would soon be deactivating, and put on my uniform. The staff meeting was tense. Gary was hyperventilating. Okay, everyone, he said, wiping sweat from his bald head. We have a crisis. The liquor distributor has cut us off completely. We are running on inventory. We need to push the high-margin cocktails to get rid of the cheap stuff. And a corporate says there's some legal issue with the building, so if anyone asks, we are not closing. He looked at me. Vanessa, make sure the coat check is moving fast. We need turnover. You got it, Gary. He said, Speed is my middle name. The doors opened. The crowd flooded in, and then inevitably they arrived. It was Sunday, so it was industry night. The crowd was cooler, younger, but Claudia and Elliot were there because they had no homes to go to, apparently. They fed on the energy of the club like emotional vampires. Claudia looked furious. Her hair was pulled back tight, pulling her face into a permanent sneer. She marched up to the counter. She didn't even say hello. He didn't look at me. She just unhooked her fur, a silver fox this time, and threw it. She put actual force into it. It wasn't a toss. It was a pitch. The heavy fur bundle hit me in the face. The clasp scratched my cheek. A tiny drop of blood welled up. Oops, Claudia said deadpan. Slippery fingers. Hang it up and don't steal anything from the pockets. I stood there. The fur was on the counter. My cheek stung. In the past, I would have apologized. I would have bowed my head. I would have suppressed the rage until it became a tumor. But today, I own the counter. I own the floor she was standing on. I own the air conditioning unit blowing on her fake tan. I didn't pick up the coat. I looked at it, then I looked at her. Pick it up, she snapped. I have a table waiting. No, I said. The word hung in the air. It was a small word, but it landed like a grenade. Excuse me, Claudia laughed, a nervous, jagged sound. Did you just say no? I said no, I repeated. I reached up and touched my cheek. I looked at the blood on my finger. Are you on drugs? She asked, looking around for an audience. Gary, get over here. The coat girl is malfunctioning. Gary rushed over, looking like he was about to cry. What? What is it now? She refused to check my coat. Claudia pointed a manicured towel on at me, and she's bleeding. It's unsanitary. Gary looked at me. Vanessa, just hang up the coat. Please can't deal with this tonight. I looked at Gary. He was a good man mostly, just weak. I can't, Gary. I said, calm as a frozen lake. Why not? Because I said. Leaning forward, my voice dropping to a whisper that only they could hear. I don't work for you anymore. You quit? Gary asked, confused. Not exactly, I said. I looked past them. In the background, near the VIP stairs, I saw one of my silent partners, Mr. X. He was leaning against the railing, sipping a soda. He caught my eye and nodded. It was time. I'm not quitting, I said to Claudia, my eyes locking onto hers. I'm promoting myself. You're delusional, Claudia spat. Pick up the coat, or I will have you dragged out by security. Security, she yelled, waving at the bouncer. The bouncer, a guy named Mike, who I had shared lunch with every day for 2 years, walked over. He looked at Claudia. Then he looked at me. Mike, throw her out, Claudia commanded. I crossed his arms. I can't do that, Mrs. Haynes. Why the hell not? Because Mike said, looking at the floor, she signs my checks now. Claudia froze. What? I reached under the counter and pulled out a single paper clip. I used it to attach a small folded piece of paper to the fur coat that was still lying on the counter. I think you dropped this, I said. What is that? She asked. It's a receipt, I lied. Actually, no, it's a notice. I checked the time. 11:59 p.m. Part 6 is over, I whispered to myself. What are you mumbling? Claudia demanded. Just counting down, I said. Midnight. The witching hour. I smiled. The blood on my cheek felt like war paint. Get ready, Claudia, I said. The floor is about to get very, very slippery. Let's rewind a few hours before the coat hit my face before the bouncer refused to move. 3 a.m., Sunday morning. Technically, the club had closed for the night. Cleaning crew hadn't arrived yet. It was just me, the silence, and the smell of stale beer. I had the keys, not the staff keys, the master keys, the ones handed to me by the courier along with the deed. I walked the floor of Club Sanctum alone. It's strange being in a nightclub when the music is off. It looks like a movie set with the lights on. The velvet looks dusty. The gold trim looks like plastic. You see the scratches on the floor, the gum stuck under the tables. Without the illusion of the party, it's just a room. I walked up to the VIP section. I sat on the banquet where Claudia had held court for 2 years. I ran my hand over the leather. It was cold. This was where she sat when she laughed about my foreclosure. This was where Elliot sat when he blacklisted my name. I felt a ghost in the room. The ghost of Vanessa Bishop, the woman I used to be, the woman who wore silk blouses and laughed easily. She died 2 years ago. Woman sitting here now was made of scar tissue and iron. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a tube of lipstick. Ruby Woo. It was the shade I used to wear every night at the Velvet Room. I hadn't worn it since the day the inspectors shut me down. I walked to the large mirror behind the bar, the one Claudia loved to check her reflection in. My hand didn't shake. I wrote on the glass in thick red letters, "Check your access." It wasn't a threat. It was advice. Went to the DJ booth. I powered up the sound system. I didn't blast techno. I put on a track that I used to play at closing time at my old place. A slow, haunting jazz cover of "Everybody Wants to Rule the World." I stood in the center of the dance floor, letting the music wash over me. I wasn't dancing. I was measuring the space. I was reclaiming the air rights. For 2 years, I had made myself small. I had hunched my shoulders. I had lowered my voice, had dulled my eyes. I stood up straight. I stretched my arms out. I took up space. I am the owner, I said to the empty room. The acoustics were terrible. I'd have to fix that. I went to the office. I sat in Gary's chair. I didn't touch his computer. I just left a single envelope on his desk. Inside was the new organizational chart. His name was still on it as assistant manager. I wasn't cruel. Gary was a survivor like me. He just picked the wrong side. There was another list in the envelope, a do not admit list. It had 2 names on it. I walked back out to the coat check. This was my prison cell, my cage. I started cleaning it. I threw away the cheap hangers. I threw away the generic claim tickets. I replaced them with the heavy matte black cards, stock tickets I had ordered. The ones with the VMBB Holdings logo embossed in gold. I was rebranding the dungeon. I looked at my reflection in the plexiglass window. Mousy brown hair was still there, but the eyes were different. They were lighter, harder. I remembered something my father told me before he died. He was a union rep for the steel workers, a tough old bird who smoked unfiltered Camels. V, he'd said, if you're going to burn a bridge, make sure you're on the side with the fire extinguisher. I patted my pocket. I had the fire extinguisher. I had the water hose. I had the whole damn fire department. The sun started to come up, leading gray light through the emergency exits. I went to the staff locker room. I changed into my uniform for the last time. The black pants, the polo shirt that smelled like polyester and shame. I looked at myself in the locker mirror. "Showtime, sweetie," I whispered. I applied the Ruby Woo lipstick. It looked jarring against the drab uniform. A slash of war paint. A warning signal. When the staff started trickling in for the Sunday night shift, they noticed. "Whoa, Vanessa," Sarah said, tying her apron. "Nice lipstick. Hot date tonight. Something like that?" I smiled. "You seem different." "Mike," the bouncer noted, cracking his knuckles. "I feel different, Mike." "Good. Different. The best kind," I said. "The kind where the bad guys lose." I had pulled Mike aside 10 minutes later before the doors opened. I showed him the paperwork. I showed him the signature. I told him what was going to happen. Mike had grinned. It was a terrifying, beautiful grin. Hated Claudia. She had once poured a drink on his shoes because he didn't open the rope fast enough. "So when she gives the order," Mike asked. "You take orders from the owner," I said. "And that's me." "Copy that, boss," Mike said. And that brought us back to the moment. The coat on the floor, the blood on my cheek, the silence in the room as Claudia Haynes realized that her security guard wasn't moving. The night before the fall was over. The fall was happening now. The music had stopped. The DJ, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure, or maybe just seeing Mike the bouncer staring him down, had cut the track. The club was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerators and the sound of Claudia Haynes trying to process the word no. "You own the coat check," Claudia scoffed, a desperate, confused laugh bubbling up. "What did you do? Buy the franchise? That's adorable." "Really? A true entrepreneur?" He turned to the crowd, arms wide. "Everyone, look. The coat check girl thinks she's a business owner. Let's give her a round of applause for her little lemonade stand." A few people chuckled nervously. Most just stared. People in nightclubs smell blood faster than sharks. They knew this wasn't a joke. "I don't own the coat." "Check, Claudia," I said. My voice was calm, projected from the diaphragm. No more mumbles. I stepped out from behind the counter, opened the swinging door. I walked onto the main floor. "I own the door you walked through," I said, taking a step toward her. "I own the floor you're standing on. I own the liquor license for the vodka you're demanding. I own the mortgage note on this building." I stopped 3FT from her. I was wearing my cheap uniform and my bright red lipstick, and I felt 10FT tall. I am the landlord. I am the bank, and I am the management. Claudia stared at me. Face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions, confusion, disbelief, and finally pure, unadulterated terror. "Elliot," she shrieked, spinning around to find her husband. "Elliot, do something. She's lying. She's crazy." Elliot Haynes pushed through the crowd. He looked sweaty. He looked like a man who had just realized why his valet ticket was declined. "What is the meaning of this?" Elliot demanded, trying to muster his CEO voice. "Who are you?" "The woman whose business you helped destroy," I said. "Vanessa Bishop, the Velvet Room." "Ring a bell?" Elliot's eyes widened. Recognition flickered. You're the one with the values." I finished for him. "Yes, and it turns out my values include paying my debts and collecting yours." I pointed to the wall behind the bar. I had instructed the bartender to unveil it at exactly midnight. The bartender pulled a cord. The canvas covering the large mirror fell away. It was written in Ruby Woo, "Check your access," and below it a new digital projection on the wall, bright and undeniable, private property. New owner, VM Bishop Holdings. The room gasped. Phones were out. Flashbulbs were popping. This was going on TikTok Live. This was the content they lived for. "This is illegal," Elliot sputtered. "I have a lease. I have a contract with Nightlife Ventures." "You had a contract," I corrected. "They defaulted. I bought the debt. I'm exercising my right to terminate services for any patron who violates the code of conduct." I turned my gaze back to Claudia. "Code of conduct violation number 1, I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "Abuse of staff." I looked down at the silver fox fur coat still lying on the dirty floor. It looked like roadkill now. "Pick it up," I said to Claudia. "What?" she whispered. "Pick it up." I can't," she stammered. I'm a guest." "Not anymore," I said. "How you're just a trespasser with bad manners." Claudia looked at Elliot. Elliot looked at his shoes. He wasn't going to save her. He was calculating the PR fallout. He was already distancing himself. Claudia looked at the crowd. They were filming her, mocking her. The queen was naked. Slowly, painfully, Claudia Haynes bent down. Her knees popped, her dress strained. She reached out and grabbed the fur coat from the floor. Dust bunnies clung to the expensive pelt. She stood up, clutching the dirty coat to her chest, her face a mask of humiliation. "Happy," she hissed, tears welling up in her eyes. "You made your point. We're leaving." "Leaving implies you have a choice," I said. I signaled Mike. "Escort them out," I said. "And Mike?" "Yeah, boss. Check their pockets," I said, throwing her own words back at her. "Make sure they didn't steal anything." The crowd erupted. Laughter. Cheers. It was brutal. It was savage. It was justice. "You can't touch me," Claudia screamed as Mike stepped forward. "Do you know who I am?" "We know exactly who you are, Mrs. Haynes," I said, my voice dropping to a cool professional register. "That's why you're banned." I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a sealed white envelope. I slapped it into Elliot's hand. "What is this?" he asked, looking at it like it was radioactive. "A formal notice of trespass." I explained a dossier of harassment complaints filed by the staff over the last 24 months. Dates, times, witnesses, including the time Claudia threw a hot coffee at the valet. "We have the footage." Elliot palled. He knew what that meant. Lawsuits, settlements, PR nightmares. His family values brand was about to take a hit. "We can settle this," Elliot started, his voice shaking. "Vanessa, Miss Bishop, let's go to the office. Let's talk numbers." "I don't need your numbers, Elliot," I said. "I have my own." "You're making a mistake," he threatened. But it was weak. "You need people like us. We are the economy of the city." "No," I said, stepping closer, smelling the fear coming off him. It smelled like sweat and expensive dry cleaning. "You're the parasites. The economy is the people serving your drinks, parking your cars, and fixing your AC. And we're tired of you." I turned to Claudia. She was shaking, clutching her dirty coat. Claudia Haynes said formally, "Your membership is revoked. Effective immediately. Permanent ban global. If I buy a lemonade stand in the future, you're banned from there too. Get them out." I nodded to Mike. Mike and two other bouncers, big guys who had been waiting for this day for years, stepped in. They didn't touch them roughly. They just created a wall of muscle. "This way, folks," Mike said cheerfully. They were herded toward the door, not the VIP exit. The front door, one with the draft. As they passed the threshold, Claudia turned back one last time. Her mascara was running. She looked small. "You're just a coat check girl," she screamed, her voice cracking. "And you," I called back or outside. The heavy oak door slammed shut. Silence returned to the room for a beat. Then someone started clapping, then another, then the whole room. I didn't bow. I wasn't a performer. I turned to the DJ. "Hit it." The music blasted back on. Louder this time. Bass rattled the bottles on the shelf. My bottles. I walked behind the bar. I picked up a bottle of Grey Goose, one of the last ones left before the new stock arrived. I poured a shot for the house, I yelled. The roar was deafening. I didn't stay for the party. I walked up the stairs to the VIP balcony, my balcony. I looked down at the sea of people. I saw Sarah laughing with a tray of drinks. I saw Gary looking relieved, loosening his tie, saw the ecosystem healing itself. I sat down in the booth, the one I had marked with caution tape earlier. I ripped the tape off. I sat down. I pulled out my phone and checked the Reddit thread. Update, she's gone, I typed, and I didn't even have to use the sriracha. I closed my eyes and leaned back. My feet hurt. My cheap shoes were pinching my toes. But for the first time in 2 years, I didn't care. I wasn't the help. I wasn't the victim. I was the house. The house always wins. So, to answer your question, yes, revenge is a dish best served cold, preferably in a VIP lounge you just bought from under your enemy's feet. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a club to run and a new rule to post on the door. Be nice or get out. Check your access, sweetie. And that's how it all played out. Funny how life can twist itself into knots and then somehow straighten out again. Yeah. Thanks for listening and being here.